Hey guys, my name is Marcin. I'm content marketing team lead at 10Clouds, and welcome to the next episode of Fancy Voices. And warm welcome to my guest, Nick Spanos. Hi, Nick.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Marcin.
The pleasure is all mine. Well, Nick is a person who needs no introduction, but I will introduce him anyway, out of respect, obviously. Nick is a Bitcoin and blockchain pioneer. He is also a founder of a Bitcoin Center based in New York, the CEO of Blockchain Technologies Corporation, speaker, mentor, well, and the list goes on. Once again, Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Nick, on a personal note, I've been told that you'll be swarming the stage late January in Miami at Quantum Miami event. Well, it seems like sunny Miami could be a good place to survive a chilly crypto winter, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was there last week, and it wasn't that warm, but I think when we opened the Blockchain Center in Miami years ago, Miami wasn't on the map at all, and we were able to promote that area, and I felt that it was a place that developers would like to go to be able to get some sun and maybe some work in. So we opened the Blockchain Center a few years ago. We got Mayor Suarez involved, and there's a bunch of stuff on the internet you can look up on that. And I think Miami's come along very, very nicely for the world in general. Yeah.
Well, it seems very interesting, but today we are not going to focus on Miami. I would rather focus a little bit more on New York, where Bitcoin Center is headquartered. It's very interesting because it seems like a physical commodity to exchange Bitcoin. Why is that? Was it like an intentional way to taunt all those folks who are across the street on Wall Street, like, trading traditional assets? What was the idea behind it?
Yes. Yeah, well, the idea really came out of, I don't want to say anger, but I got a little angry at the reporters that were talking bad about Bitcoin back then in 2013. And I just come off the Ron Paul campaign. I was Ron Paul's director of voter contact, and I always promoted candidates that had something against the Federal Reserve System. And Ron Paul, of course, wrote the book "End the Fed." We had a bill in the House and to audit the Federal Reserve. And so what happened was the same reporters and talking heads that spoke against Ron, Dr. Paul, spoke also against Bitcoin all of a sudden, and I got very angry, and I went down to Wall Street. I said, we're going to open our own exchange. I'm going to open my own exchange right next to their exchange and show the world what Bitcoin is, because everyone has to know what the transparency, especially, people have to learn about the transparency now. So I figured that we have to open the place right next door to the New York stock market on the ground floor. I found the largest space. It was 600 square meters on the ground floor of the Satai building, which was about 100 feet from the New York stock market. And yes, we stood outside of the stock market and pulled all the traders in. Many I see in the street thank me profusely that I got them involved in Bitcoin in 2013, because they're doing pretty well right now. And we had education courses every day. All the tour groups we brought in, and we would teach them in a few languages about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain. And all the traders we brought in, and all the reporters we brought. I invited all the reporters in because I thought that if the reporters don't know about Bitcoin, they would only write stories about the novelty of how something bad happened with Bitcoin. And it wasn't really all the reporters' faults that they were saying those things. It's just they didn't understand what Bitcoin and blockchain was. And we explained it to many reporters, and many of them have written Bitcoin and blockchain books since then and are leaders in the community now. So I'm very happy we got that done. And that's why I hope.
Yes, Nick, out of curiosity, how does the Bitcoin Center is organized? How does it work specifically? Because you've mentioned, well, some elements from attributed to the traditional world, like, trading and so on, but you also mentioned leaders, community, and so on. This is something unusual when you compare it to a traditional system, doesn't it?
Well, the Bitcoin Center. So we opened the Bitcoin Center in 2013, and after a few years, well, then they created the Bit license in New York, which some people call the Nick license, and I'm not too happy about that because it scared most of the traders away. It's a very uh, intrusive license. It's a banking license. They just crossed the top off, and it's like you have to be a bank to be in the Bitcoin business in New York. So we pivoted and made it, incubator, accelerator. So it's the Bitcoin Center and Blockchain Center. So we're at 2307 Broadway. It used to be a CVS, a big giant drugstore on the ground floor, retail. And so right now we're more about accelerating projects, bringing investors to projects, teaching developers about Web3, and promoting Bitcoin and blockchain throughout the world. So,
So right
I
now
came.
it operates as a blockchain technology corporation. Right now, it's pivoted to this kind of entity over time, as I understand it.
Well, Blockchain Technologies Corp is another entity. This is a Blockchain Center Foundation. You can go to
Mhm.
blockchaincenter.com, blockchaincenter.com, and that's our website. And we have entities around the world, and hopefully we can open up in Berlin too. So I think.
Or in Warsaw, I strongly encourage you to establish one in Warsaw as well.
Oh, for sure. For sure, you have many brilliant people in Warsaw, and big brain Polish people fed with kielbasa and galumki.
No, right now we are only drinking tea. But truthfully, when we are talking about New York, I've never been to New York. I'd love to visit New York someday.
Come on.
Maybe I will have that opportunity. However, I like to imagine how the entire crypto startups scene looks like and operate, how big it is, which companies are dominant. Are there any like prospects of seeing like another OpenSea like valued company that will be based or reside in New York on a daily basis?
Well, there's a lot of talent in New York, and I believe that if we, get that talent, put all the different talents together, we can move forward the ecosystem. That's the reality. I think we've done it in the past many times. We had God rest his soul, Nikolai and Rune made MakerDAO, and at the center very early before MakerDAO was launched, and launched MakerDAO. And we had I don't even know how many. We launched Dogecoin at the center when someone didn't really want to be visible. We pushed it and launched it. We had Paxful, Ray and Artur. We was launched at the center, and they worked at the center. I mean, I can't even remember. All the Ethereum guys, most of them met at the center. I can't even, think of the ones that actually, all the ones that are winners today. I mean, of course, they're probably losers also, because that's what happens in tech. I remember with the .com boom, there were many .coms, and at the pinnacle of the .com. You had pets.com with the commercials and this and that, but it was a lot of it was vaporware. But what had come out of it, of course, was Amazon and eBay and Facebook, and the big ones that survived are the ones that survive. So that's probably what's going to happen now. There's a good thinning out of the projects that weren't financially suited to survive, and I think now is the time that the big ones are going to come out of the gate, and with the real technology pushing forward, that wouldn't be able to happen if they didn't have the real technology. So I think this is a very exciting time for projects, and I think it's a very telling time that many of the phonies fell apart during this last thinning out, and people who didn't understand the technology, who didn't understand decentralization, who didn't understand Web3, who didn't understand self-custody, and didn't understand why the activists such as myself, I consider myself an activist first, came into the space. We came into the space for decentralization and the honesty and transparency that comes with that. Self-custody also.
Well, naturally, when we think about different companies right now, there is no shortage of opinions that the current bear market, it's a great moment to build. There is a handful, or maybe not even a handful, immense number of projects that succeeded, including Cosmos, MakerDAO, and so on. But there are also numerous projects that failed, not only because they turned out to be scams, but basically they were, I don't know, probably managed in a wrong way, or maybe it wasn't just a time for them. So my next question is, what makes a successful dApp a success? How can you tell apart bad successful from unsuccessful projects?
Well, probably the amount of users that you have, the connection to other protocols or other projects, how ubiquitous it is within a population, and the usage of it, I guess. Not I guess, but for sure. And, how advanced, if the technology is too advanced, sometimes you get held back. And if you're trying to use the technology for what it could do, sometimes the people don't have the wherewithal to adopt you soon enough. So a project that's working is that they're adopting the technology faster, but also I believe that the technology has to be of purity to be able to have the ability to stand for itself. So if you want to be if it's a smart contract technology that's utilizing smart contracts, you should use a smart contract religiously and not have a bunch of centralized silos for this. And there comes the difference between the ease of adoption or the lower barrier to entry that comes from regular usage on the internet. And then what happens is that's one of the problems, because people can't adopt fast enough, to the technologies that we have. So that's the conundrum. You want a pure project, but it's not going to adopt as fast with the number of users as a project that's using centralized silos, data silos, and old practices. So you have to work through that, or else you're jeopardizing everything, because you might lose everyone's money because you're a centralized project and someone hacked you, or your CFO ran off with all the money or whatever. So I think there's a thin line there.
So is it something you pay attention to when a founder of a center project, let's say, approaches you? Let's say it would be myself. Let's say that we met in the elevator of a building where Blockchain Corporation is headquartered. What would I have to do to encourage Nick Spanos to get interested in my projects? Should I present him with a steady smart contract, with a robust framework, with an immense number of users willing to be a part of my story?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Many people pitch their products to me, and if they're centralized projects, I don't really want to get involved, just because it's not to the ethos of what we're here for. And but if they're decentralized products and they have the ability to change the world for the better with blockchain, decentralization, and transparency, then sure, I'm all ears, and I'd love to get involved somehow. So I think if it's an elevator pitch, it has to be short and sweet, of course, and concise, and it'd have to be decentralized.
So decentralized agnostic, that's the first thing first. But let's say that I have more time than over the course of our travel in the elevator, and I would like to pitch you with my project. What kind of project Block Tech Corporation is looking for currently?
So you're saying we're stuck in the elevator? So we're stuck in the elevator
Apparently,
for a moment,
apparently.
for a while. Yeah, like I said, if it's decentralized and there are users, many users, sure, that's great. If it's not to the point of having the users yet, it would have to ring a big bell and say, yes, this is a good direction, and probably people would join. I mean, how much is the user acquisition going to cost is the big question. If you don't have the users, how much is it going to cost to teach people what you're doing, why it's better than what exists already, and why they're going to go the decentralized route? So usually that happens with big events in the world, such as this what just happened with this exchange that went under and people got arrested and stuff. So this is a big moment where people's brains are open to conversation. I don't want to say the word suggestion, but yeah, their brain is all open to the suggestion that decentralized exchanges are much safer, and especially in the crypto world, and start explaining, what DEXs are to people, and why they should be using decentralized exchanges, and how they should have self-custody. Of course, having a third-party custodian of your money is easier, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the money back. I mean, you can go and give your money to the hot dog salesman to hold for you, but you don't probably not going to get it back, because money has a certain property. It belongs to the bearer. So if you're not holding your money, if you don't have the private keys, of course, it's not your crypto.
Wise words. Well, that's the fact that when it comes to crypto, there is a very high entry level, and there are situations when you might feel that it's very exclusive environment to join. So given that there are many users who, well, to say it in a very delicate way, they're not very reasonable and responsible when it comes to managing their money, their assets. So probably the security aspect wouldn't be like the first thing first to encourage them to become a part of that decentralized world. So aside from that, what might be that that element to persuade people, encourage them to show them that there are so many benefits to be users of decentralized tools?
Well, like we said earlier, that the exchanges, the centralized exchanges, have custody of your funds, and I even know for a fact that there are many uh, foreign currency FX exchanges that their whole business model is that they don't have any foreign currency custody of any foreign currency. They only have your currency, and they plan and bank on you losing 95% of the people losing their money in there, because it becomes like gambling for them. So this isn't something that's new for crypto. This is human nature, that someone wants to take custody of your money and never give it back. So I think with Web3 and decentralized exchanges, DEXs, you can actually have custody of your money and create swaps where you can trade. So I think you have to express to people, if you really want the big returns, you have to get into the DEXs, and also you can get the 3% from the transaction volume of the percentage of tokens that you put into the pools of different pairs on the Uniswap and Sushi Swap and Pancake Swap and all the other swaps. And I think that's a big draw for people, because you don't have to build the exchange. You don't have to do anything. You just put up liquidity and you get a percentage of the fees, instead of having to build a whole exchange and go through all the regulators and all the different things you'd have to do to be able to get a percentage of the fees that are coming through an exchange. You can just supply liquidity on those with self-custody, supply liquidity to the smart contract, not to a third party, but to the smart contract, which you could pull out anytime you want, and make that return. And if people aren't turned on by that, let them go deposit their money in the next exchange that's going to fold and run off into the hills with it. What am I going to say?
Let's change a little bit the perspective of our webinar, because we talked about a while ago about like users' perspective, and one thing that we've mentioned, like we can call as an adoption issue. Although the crypto adoption is moving forward, it's still at its infancy. And it's gonna take a long way before it will get at the equal level of traditional world. Nonetheless, it is something that I believe it's bugging pretty much many founders of decentralized projects and products, not only decentralized exchanges, but also many others. So like expressing and outlining the benefits of the centralized world, that's the first thing. I believe that's the pinnacle of many challenges. Do you see, Nick, any other challenges among founders of dApps? Do you see anything new since the bear market appeared?
Well, yeah, many of the founders of different dApps that were to come folded up shop, and they went and got a job at a Pizza Hut. And many other ones who are true believers can't even think about anything else, are still have their nose to the grindstone, and are working to build. So the true believers are going to survive, just as always. This is what always happens during the bear markets. I've seen so many bear markets. I don't even call them a bear market. This is a usual, everyday, not every day, but most of the days we feel like this. And then, for 3 or 4 weeks during these few years that have and are going to go by, there's the crash up, because Bitcoin and crypto crashes up for a few weeks, and then it slowly goes down and all the bad news comes out. So I think people have to concentrate on the future, just like when the internet crash happened. Everyone else who left have missed out because they had all the experience in this new area and the new technology. And but you know what? They didn't believe in themselves, and this is a time to believe in yourself and believe in self-sovereignty and have that as your goal. And the pure people are going to survive and thrive. And the ones that were here in it for the money only, you know, they might get deterred because they're going to be thinking about money, and the money's going to guide them in all different ways. But if you're here for the hope that decentralization, Bitcoin, crypto has given to us, if you're here for that, and you're guided by the principles of decentralization, and you're obsessed the way I am and the way I was in this, then I think you're going to make it. So keep working hard if you believe in this. And this is a very small moment in human history that we actually can have self-sovereignty, have custody of our work saved through time, you know, store value. We can store our work in our brain. We can create brain wallets and store our work through time on us, where we cannot get confiscated or taken away, or other words, you know. But I think this is the time for all of us to free humanity for once and for all. You know, if we could do it, it's up to us. It's up to everyone out there to do their part, to believe that this is the future. Because if we don't free ourselves, I keep saying this, if we don't free ourselves by the decentralized, permissionless blockchain, you know, they're going to imprison and encumber us and oppress us with the centralized data silos that they're going to call blockchain and pass off as blockchain. And now a big problem is the central bank digital currencies, the CBDCs. I mean, these countries are making regulations against Bitcoin, curiously, meanwhile trying to create their own thing that looks like a Bitcoin. But the problem is it's gonna be a surveillance coin. If they don't like who you voted for, they might erase your money. If they don't like that you jaywalked across the street, not at a red light, maybe they're going to automatically debit your bank account or your CBDC wallet. Or if they don't like, you know, your activities, if your phone's accelerometer is not liking and GPS is not liking that what you're doing during an event that you're watching or a TV show that you're watching, maybe it's going to freeze your money until you go and prove yourself to some big AI questioning device. You know, an app pops up and starts questioning you using the data of millions and millions of people to figure out if you're thinking the wrong thing. And if you are, maybe you're going to go broke in a split second. So I think we have to fight the centralized digital, the central bank digital currencies, or when they come out, we have to use Bitcoin, because if we're using what the governments are creating to oppress us and encumber us and tax us and all these things. I mean, I keep going off on these tangents because many people don't understand why we're here. If they understood why we're really here and what this opportunity is giving us, they might be acting a little different. And there's billions of people on the planet. If we can understand, if many of us can understand and spread the message of decentralized currencies, Bitcoin, and the decentralized blockchain, then maybe we can actually free ourselves at last. Otherwise, we're going to have big problems. And I see this, I usually see many things that the future brings about, and I don't see a good one for us if we don't adopt.
Well, Bitcoin. Nick, as you indicated earlier, it's time to working hard. It's time to believe in. Many people claim that it's time to build, the time of the bear market, so to speak, and many people believe that the best investment as of now is interoperability at this point. What's your take?
Well, sure. I mean, interoperability is probably everything. So I think the projects should run on as many chains as possible. If your project isn't running on many chains, you're missing out on clients, on customers, because there are some customers that are all on Ethereum, or other ones that are on the Binance chain, or other ones that are on the Solana. Even Solana now, there are many people still on Solana waiting to see what's going to happen, and there are many devs on there. So I think people have to, if you're building a dApp, make it adapt to all chains. So if if you're not thinking about interchain operability, you're missing out on many things. I wrote a paper back in 2013. I happened to have gotten a United States patent on I forgot what it's called. I wrote so many, sure. It's called Slide Chain, where it has it's multi-branch blockchain, and it's all about interchain operability. But at the time, there was only one chain, and people were asking me, well, why do we have to do that? I said, well, the throughput's going to be so big, and there's going to be people with different reasons to be in blockchain, and you can't just clog up the whole blockchain. Like, for instance, in 2016, I put the results of the 2016 Iowa caucus on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, which was a little expensive when it was at the price back then, but that created people have to, the whole world, every node has to download that, and I'm really sorry that happened, but so that's why you need interchain operability. Then we but we added a few other chains for the paper ballot blockchain voting machines we built, and we use Florin coin and a local chain per machine. So, and then we hashed all that and put it on the Bitcoin blockchain as the root chain. So I think it's very important, interchain operability, because maybe every human should have his own chain, or maybe so of course we need interchain operability, and the one that has the most hash power, the most provability, is where you're going to put your proofs that the data that you've collected, or the database, maybe you have a blockchain database, and but you can't just put all that on blockchain. You're going to put the hashes on there, or you want to trade between the different projects. So all these different projects have clients. If you want to be able to make your dApp available to all the blockchains, you're going to need to be on their blockchain. You want to make your dApp available to the most amount of customers, you're going to make your dApp interoperable with all the chains where all the different customers exist and live. It's like, hey, are you going to put a store in this? People like Hermes or Hermes has a store in Paris. They have a store in New York. They have a store in London. So if you can think New York is a blockchain and Paris is a blockchain, so these are different markets. London's a blockchain in that instance, then you're bringing your product, your dApp, to all those marketplaces. So inter-market operability, you could call it too, because from a marketing perspective, that's where they reside. That's where those clients, those customers reside, on those chains. So you have whales on each one of those chains that you might want to sell your product to, in addition to the chain that you developed originally.
The question number one is, well, as you said before, there are so many chains. There are thousands of chains: Ethereum, Solana, Cosmos. I could spend my whole day, listing different chains. But do they want to play ball? Aren't they resisting a little bit and becoming, let me put it this way, tribalistic, deep-rooted, not willing to, enable other tokens being used within those chains, just to focus on encouraging or even pestering people to use only those tokens that are attributed to a certain chain?
Well, I mean, if you bridge over to their chain, then you can use it. I mean, I'm not sure. Uh, but you're saying that, yes. So, yeah, oh, you're a Binance chain token and you came over to Ethereum and people look down on you. Well, these are social things, and you got to get your social together with your project. So you got to figure out how you're going to communicate to these groups and come out with your project on those chains, those ecosystems, of those social groups. So I believe that that's a whole part of your project. The whole department of your project probably is the way you're communicating to all the different chains and how you're going to come out.
But
I
if
hear you. I hear you. It's not an
the
easy answer. It's not an easy answer.
there are no easy answers, not at all. But if the blockchain's interoperability would come into shape, would there be a need to create something of a, or to establish something of a dominant chain in that new ecosystem?
Well, I believe that Bitcoin is the dominant chain.
Hands down.
It's always has been. It's always been the dominant chain, and I believe it'll always be the dominant chain. And many people are saying, "Oh, my project is going to be better than Bitcoin" and all that. I'd be leery of people who say that, because it's probably not going to be true. I think Bitcoin is the dominant chain. And if you don't put your proofs, the hashes on Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin doesn't have I'm going to call it EVM, but it's getting there. But it wasn't built for that. But it does have the dominant, most provable chain. So if you're to put hashes on that chain, I think that's good for starters until Bitcoin catches up. But it's not supposed to catch up. It's not. It's not. You know. It's there for provability, I believe, as the public blockchain. I mean, other ones, when there's one person in charge of a chain, there are big problems. Look what happened. I mean, even SBF wasn't in charge of Solana, but look what happened to Solana. So I believe that Bitcoin is the dominant chain.
My final question, in terms of interoperability, would be like creation of operating system. It seems like a prerequisite when it comes to having establishing interoperability. What do you think about that concept? Is it something hard to accomplish, like one operating system that would enable us to make the most of all benefits that are related to using blockchain without being actually on blockchain?
Yeah. Well, you're a good reporter. Well, we're building a project. It's called CryptoS.
I am.
I don't know how you found out about that. I've been trying to keep it a secret for a while, but we're building an operating system called CryptoS. And cryptos.com. I was offered a lot of money for that name many times by many different people. Even one of a royal offered me such a big number for that domain name and for me to stop the project that I feel a little, I felt a little weak at the knees, and maybe I was going to buckle, but I'm not going to buckle. And we're still working and increasing our devs. It's cryptos.com, and it's a decentralized operating system. And it's going to help people's self-sovereignty and ability to interact with chains in the privacy setting. And it's soon to come out. When it comes out, you'll see it. I hate making promises with the code.
As I said before, that was my last question about interoperability. And Nick, before we wrap up, there's one more thing I'd like to ask you about. Uh, well, you depict yourself as a blockchain and Bitcoin pioneer, even as a crypto OG, and I believe that OG stands for old school, which is quite intriguing, given that well, crypto is still quite a young notion, but still, as someone who has so many accomplishments in that sector, what would be your key consideration or considerations to people who want to be founders or who want to build their projects on blockchain in a decentralized way?
Right. Well, I think it's life and death. I think it's life and death right now that we actually free ourselves for once in since the last 10,000 years of centralization, that we have the ability now, only this little window of opportunity, this small window of opportunity that we have to free ourselves. And if you don't take advantage of that, or if you're not turned on by that, I mean, you don't belong here, and don't call me. But if you do belong and you do want to free humanity, and as a byproduct, yes, you're going to probably make a lot of money, but that should be a byproduct, and that's how you're going to survive these bear markets, because there are many of them, and that's fine. And I don't care about these markets. This technology is going to free us. We've been waiting for this to occur for many, many years, for us to have the tool, the weapon against our proverbial owners. Against our owners, we have a weapon now that we can finally utilize to move forward into a decentralized, beautiful future. I mean, I remember back in 2019, I was at the Futurist convention speaking about Bitcoin and blockchain projects and blah, blah, blah. And at that time, all these big four accounting firms started getting involved and all this. And I was like, well, you know what? You got the big four on your team and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to get a Lamborghini. Are you in this industry to get a Lamborghini? Because what if they don't let you drive? You get a Lamborghini, but they don't let you drive anymore. And I said, oh, you want a mansion? What if they don't let you out of the house? They might not let you out of the house. And that was before COVID. And the lady that ran the event said to me, what are you saying up there? It sounds crazy. Why are you saying that? She said to me after. And I said, well, that's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is people are going to be oppressed with technology instead of freed with technology. And it's our job, our obligation, to free ourselves with technology. And later, she was locked in a house in Canada. She wasn't allowed to leave the house. They weren't allowed to go out. Well, then she called me up. She goes, oh my God, you're so right. We're not allowed to leave the house. We're not allowed to leave the house now. The government run amok, and it was like 2 years. They had the worst COVID oppression ever in Canada, and she was practically crying on the phone. And she asked me how I knew. I said, I didn't know it was going to happen so fast, so soon, but things happen quickly. So if you're building a project, you want to be an OG. It's OG's original gangster. You got to be a little gangster and not care about the money, and move forward with your strength and inner strength as a human that's freeing people, or else you're going to be counting beans like a little bean counter in the little corner, or a little squirrel trying to grab as many nuts as you can and put them in some tree somewhere. And you can do that too. But the reality is, the forward motion in this is a much more cleaner motivation for me.
Nick Spanos, Bitcoin and blockchain original gangster, was my guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you guys have been watching 10Clouds, 10C Voices, Tech Web Talks. If you like this episode, let us know. And on top of that, contact us at 10clouds.com if you'd like to talk about your project. See you around.